Princess Charlotte Adams walked through the gleaming corridors of New Geneva Station with careful steps. Her blue dress moved softly as she made her way to the main conference room. Behind her, Captain Jake Morrison followed at the proper distance. His black uniform was perfect and his hand stayed close to his weapon. The space station was huge and beautiful. Windows showed the stars outside while alien delegates from across the galaxy filled the halls. Charlotte had never seen so many different species in one place. Some looked like giant lizards with scales that changed colors. Others looked like walking crystals that made musical sounds when they moved. Charlotte was only 25 years old, but she carried the weight of all humanity on her shoulders. As the heir to Earth's colonial federation, she had to speak for billions of people spread across dozens of worlds. The thought made her stomach feel tight, but she kept walking. "Your Highness," Jake said quietly. "The Zephyrian delegation is already in the conference room. Ambassador Kent is waiting for you, outside." Charlotte nodded. She had known Jake for 3 years now. He had been assigned as her personal guard when threats against the royal family increased. Most people thought he was just another soldier, but Charlotte knew better. Jake was smart and careful. He noticed things that others missed. The conference room doors were twice as tall as a normal person. They opened with a soft sound and Charlotte stepped inside. The room was round with a large table in the center. Seats were arranged for all the different species attending the peace talks. Ambassador Kent stood near the human section. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. Charlotte had worked with him many times before. He knew how to talk to aliens without making them angry. "Princess Charlotte," Kent said with a small bow. "The talks will begin in a few minutes. The Zephyrians and Vorthons are both here. They seem eager to start." Charlotte looked around the room. The Zephyrian delegates sat on one side. Their leader was General Vex, a large reptile with dark green scales and yellow eyes. He watched everything with the look of a hunter. The Zephyrians had built a huge empire by conquering weaker species. They were known for being very smart about politics and war. On the other side sat the Vorthon delegation. They looked like walking diamonds with light flowing inside their crystal bodies. Their leader was called Prime Node Zara. The Vorthons were masters of technology. Their ships and weapons were the best in the galaxy. They rarely fought wars because most enemies gave up rather than face their advanced technology. Between these two powerful groups sat the humans. Earth had only been in space for 200 years. Compared to the thousands of years that the other empires had existed, humans were like children. But human colonies had spread fast across the galaxy. This made some aliens nervous. Jake took his position against the wall where he could see the whole room. Charlotte noticed how his eyes moved constantly, watching for any sign of danger. She felt safer knowing he was there. "Welcome, honored delegates," said the station commander through the communication system. "Today we gather to discuss the territorial disputes in the Meridian sector. We hope these talks will bring lasting peace to our galaxy." The Meridian sector was a group of star systems rich in rare minerals and good planets for colonies. All three empires wanted control of it. Humans had claimed several worlds there first, but the Zephyrians and Vorthons said these claims were not legal. General Vex stood up first. His voice was deep and rough like grinding stones. "The Zephyrian Empire has ancient rights to the Meridian sector. Our ancestors mapped these stars when humans were still living in caves on their small world. Prime Node." Zara's crystal body flashed with bright colors as she responded. "The Vorthon Collective's technological surveys prove our legal claim to the sector. We have data showing our ships visited these systems before any other species." Charlotte felt her heart beat faster. Both aliens spoke like the matter was already decided. They talked about humans like they were not even in the room. She stood up slowly. "The Earth Colonial Federation established colonies in the Meridian sector through legal exploration and settlement," she said. Her voice was calm but firm. "Our people live on those worlds now. They have built homes and families there. We will not abandon them." General Vex's yellow eyes focused on Charlotte. "Young princess, your species has expanded too quickly across the galaxy. Perhaps it is time to learn your proper place." The words made Charlotte angry, but she kept her face calm. Jake shifted slightly against the wall. She could see the tension in his shoulders. The talks continued for hours. Each side presented their claims with maps and legal documents. The Zephyrians talked about ancient history and conquest rights. The Vorthans showed technological surveys and settlement patterns. Charlotte and Ambassador Kent defended human colonies, with exploration records and population data. As the day went on, Charlotte began to notice something strange. The Zephyrians and Vorthans seemed to argue with each other, but their arguments felt like acting. When they thought no humans were watching, she saw small signals pass between General Vex and Prime Node Zara. During a break, Charlotte walked to the window with Jake following close behind. The stars looked peaceful from inside the station, but she knew that warships from all three empires waited in nearby space. Each fleet was ready to fight if the talks failed. "Jake," she said quietly, "something feels wrong about this whole meeting." "I know, Your Highness," he replied. "I have been watching them too. The aliens are working together somehow." Charlotte looked back at the conference table. General Vex and Prime Node Zara were talking in low voices. They stopped when they saw her watching. The talks resumed and continued late into the evening. No progress was made. Each side repeated the same arguments. The Zephyrians wanted the sector because of historical claims. The Vorthans wanted it for technological reasons. Humans wanted to keep their colonies safe. As the first day ended, Charlotte felt tired and worried. The peace talks were not going well. Worse, she was becoming more certain that the Zephyrians and Vorthans were planning something together. If that was true, then humanity was in terrible danger. Jake walked with her back to their quarters. The halls were quieter now, with most delegates resting for the night. Tomorrow would bring more talks and more arguments. Charlotte hoped she was wrong about the aliens working together, but her instincts told her that something bad was coming. Charlotte could not sleep that night. Her mind kept thinking about the strange behavior she had seen during the peace talks. She got out of bed and walked to her small desk. The quarters given to the human delegation were nice but simple. A bed, a desk, and a window showing the stars outside. She opened her portable computer and began reviewing the day's recordings. As heir to the throne, she had access to special equipment that could pick up conversations from across the room. Most diplomats knew about such devices, so they were careful about what they said in public. But Charlotte had noticed something during the breaks. General Vex and Prime Node Zara had moved to corners of the room where they thought no one could hear them. Charlotte's equipment was better than most. It could pick up even whispered conversations. She put on her headphones and started listening to the recordings from the breaks. At first, she only heard normal diplomatic talk. Comments about the weather on the station and complaints about the food. Then she found what she was looking for. "The human fleets are positioned exactly as our intelligence predicted," came General Vex's rough voice through the headphones. "Phase 1 can begin in 3 days. "Confirmed," replied Prime Node Zara in her musical crystal voice. "Our combined fleets will strike simultaneously. The humans will have no time to coordinate their defense." Charlotte's blood turned cold. She quickly adjusted the recording equipment to get better sound quality. The conversation continued. "Meridian sector colonies will fall first," General Vex said. "My ships will take the northern systems while your forces secure the southern worlds. The humans will think we are fighting each other." "The deception has worked perfectly," Prime Node Zara agreed. "Their intelligence believes our empires are enemies. They have no idea we signed the Treaty of Shadows 6 months ago." Charlotte's hands shook as she listened. The Treaty of Shadows was completely unknown to human intelligence. While everyone thought the Zephyrians and Vorthans were rivals, they had secretly become allies. The peace talks were just a show to keep humanity distracted. "What about Earth itself?" General Vex asked. "Phase 2 will begin once the outer colonies fall," Prime Node Zara replied. "Your empire takes the eastern human territories. The Vorthan Collective claims the western regions. Earth and the core worlds will be divided between us." Charlotte felt sick. They were talking about billions of human lives like they were discussing the weather. She kept listening, hoping to learn more about their plans. The princess seems suspicious, General Vex noted. She watches us too carefully. It does not matter, Prime Node Zara said. In 3 days, her species will be fighting for survival. Even if she discovers our alliance, there will be no time for humans to respond. The recording ended there. Charlotte sat in her chair, staring at the computer screen. Everything made sense now. The Zephyrians and Vorthons had been pretending to be enemies while secretly planning to destroy humanity together. The peace talks were just a way to keep human leaders busy, while alien fleets moved into position. Charlotte checked the time. It was 3 a.m. station time. The attack would begin in less than 72 hours. She had to warn Earth immediately, but how? All communications from the station were monitored by both alien empires. If she sent a normal message, they would know their plan was discovered. She tried to think of other options. Could she convince Ambassador Kent to leave the talks early? No. That would look suspicious and the aliens would know something was wrong. Could she use the human ship's emergency transmitter? No. The aliens would detect any strong signal from the human delegation. Charlotte realized she needed help from someone she could trust completely. Someone who had the skills and equipment to get a message to Earth without being detected. She thought about the people in the human delegation. Ambassador Kent was good at talking, but not trained for secret missions. The other diplomats were politicians, not soldiers. Then she thought about Jake. She had suspected for a long time that he was more than just a bodyguard. His training was too good, and he knew too much about military operations. Real bodyguards protected people from physical attacks. Jake seemed to know about intelligence work and secret communications. Charlotte made a decision. She would have to trust Jake with the truth and hope he could get word to Earth. But she could not just tell him directly. If their rooms were being watched or listened to, the aliens would discover everything. She needed a way to communicate with Jake that would not alert the aliens, something that looked normal, but carried a hidden message. Charlotte thought back to her childhood when Jake first became her guard. He had been very serious about security even then. During those early days, Jake had taught her simple codes for emergency situations. Hand signals that looked like normal gestures but could pass messages. He said that if she was ever in real danger and could not speak freely, she could use these signals to call for help. Charlotte had practiced the signals until they became natural. She could adjust her jewelry or fix her hair in patterns that spelled out basic words. To anyone watching, it would look like normal feminine behavior, but Jake would understand the real meaning. The problem was getting Jake's attention during the peace talks. She would need to signal him while other people were around. If she acted strangely or obviously tried to communicate, the aliens might notice. It had to look completely natural. Charlotte spent the rest of the night planning exactly how she would warn Jake. The message had to be simple but clear. She decided on trap, warn, fleet, because those words explained everything Jake needed to know. The peace talks were a trap, and Earth's fleet needed to be warned about the coming attack. Tomorrow's talks would include a formal dinner with all the delegates. That would be her best chance. During the dinner, she could use the code while making normal conversation. Jake would be watching the room for security threats, so he would definitely see her signals. As the sun simulator on the station began showing morning light, Charlotte finally felt ready. She had discovered the alien plot and found a way to warn Earth. Now everything depended on Jake understanding her message and having the ability to act on it. She looked out at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there, human families were sleeping peacefully in their homes. They had no idea that alien fleets were moving to destroy everything they had built. In less than 3 days, the war would begin, unless Jake could get her warning to Earth in time. Charlotte closed her computer and tried to get some sleep. Tomorrow would be the most important day of her life. The formal dinner began at 7 in the evening. Charlotte had spent the entire day sitting through more peace talks, listening to the same arguments while knowing they were all lies. Every hour that passed brought humanity closer to disaster. The dining hall was beautiful. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling and soft music played in the background. Tables were arranged so that delegates from different species could mix and talk informally. The station's commanders hoped that friendly conversation over dinner might help the peace process. Charlotte wore her best dress, a deep blue gown with silver trim. More importantly, she wore her grandmother's jewelry set. The necklace, earrings, and bracelet had been in the royal family for generations. They were perfect for her plan because everyone expected her to adjust them during formal events. Jake stood at his usual position near the wall. His dress uniform was black with silver buttons, and he looked very professional. Charlotte knew he was watching every person in the room, checking for threats to her safety. Soon she would give him a threat to worry about that was bigger than anything he had ever imagined. General Vex sat at the main table with other high-ranking delegates. His scales had changed to a dark green color that Charlotte had learned meant he was in a good mood. Prime Node Zara was at another table, her crystal body glowing softly as she talked with neutral delegates from smaller species. Ambassador Kent was doing his best to make conversation with various aliens. Charlotte felt sorry for him. He was working so hard to make peace while not knowing that war was already decided. She wished she could tell him the truth, but Kent was not trained for secret operations. He might react in a way that would alert the aliens. Princess Charlotte called, a voice from behind her. She turned to see Commander Blake Rogers from the station security force. He was a middle-aged man with kind eyes who had been very helpful since the human delegation arrived. Commander Rogers, Charlotte replied with a smile. How are you enjoying the dinner? The food is excellent, Rogers said. I was wondering if you might have time to discuss security arrangements for tomorrow's talks. We want to make sure everyone feels safe. Charlotte nodded, and they began talking about general security matters. This was perfect for her plan. Conversation about safety would give her reasons to look around the room and check on Jake. She could signal him while appearing to discuss protection arrangements. As they talked, Charlotte casually reached up and touched her necklace. She moved the pendant from side to side in a specific pattern. To anyone watching, it looked like she was just fidgeting with her jewelry while talking. But the pattern spelled out the first part of her message. She moved the pendant left, then right, then left again. That was the letter T, then right, left, right for the letter R. She continued through the whole word, trap, being careful to make each movement look natural. Jake was across the room, but Charlotte could see him in her peripheral vision. His posture changed slightly when she started the signals. He was paying attention. The security arrangements sound good, Charlotte said to Commander Rogers while continuing to signal. She moved her bracelet now, twisting it on her wrist in the pattern for the letter W, then ARN for warn. I think our people will be safe with your precautions, she continued. Now she moved to her earrings, touching first the left one, then the right in the pattern for FLEET. The complete message was, Trap, Warn, Fleet. Charlotte hoped Jake had understood every letter. She finished the conversation with Commander Rogers and excused herself to visit other tables around the room. As she moved through the dinner party, Charlotte tried to act normal while watching Jake's reaction. He had moved to a different position along the wall. His hand was closer to his communication device now. She could see him thinking carefully about what he had seen. Charlotte made small talk with various delegates, playing her role as a charming princess. She complimented the Zephyrian cultural attaché on his colorful scales. She asked Prime Node Zara about Vorthan crystal art. She even managed to laugh at General Vex's jokes, though they made her stomach feel sick. All the while she kept glancing at Jake. He was studying the room more carefully now, looking at the alien delegates with new understanding. Charlotte could tell he was starting to put together the pieces of what her message meant. The dinner continued for another hour. Charlotte forced herself to eat and smile while her mind raced with worry. Had Jake understood the signals correctly? Did he have the ability to warn Earth? Would he believe that such a massive conspiracy was possible? During dessert, Charlotte noticed Jake step outside the dining hall. He was gone for about 10 minutes before returning to his position. When he came back, his face was calm, but Charlotte could see tension in his shoulders. Something had changed. As the dinner wound down, Charlotte excused herself and walked toward the exit. Jake followed at the proper distance, just as he always did. To everyone watching, it looked like the princess was simply retiring for the evening. But as they walked through the corridors toward her quarters, Charlotte noticed that Jake was more alert than usual. His eyes moved constantly and his hand stayed near his weapon. He also kept checking his communication device in a way that seemed nervous. When they reached her quarters, Jake did his usual security check of the rooms. But this time he also checked for listening devices using a small scanner that Charlotte had never seen before. That confirmed her suspicions about his real job. "Your Highness," Jake said quietly when he finished the security sweep. "We need to talk." Charlotte felt relief flood through her body. He had understood the message. "I know about the Alliance," she whispered. "I recorded their conversation last night. They plan to attack in 3 days." Jake's face went pale. "Are you absolutely certain?" "I have audio recordings of General Vex and Prime Node Zara planning the attacks. They have been lying about being enemies. The whole peace conference is just a distraction while their fleets get into position." Jake was quiet for a moment, processing the information. Charlotte could see him weighing options in his mind. "I need to get word to Earth immediately," he said finally. "But any normal communication will be monitored by the aliens. They will know we discovered their plan." "Can you do it?" Charlotte asked. Jake looked at her with serious eyes. "Yes, but it will blow my cover and put you in danger. Once I send the warning, the aliens will know that we know. They might decide to attack early or try to silence us." Charlotte thought about the billions of human lives at stake. Her own safety did not matter compared to that. "Do it," she said firmly. "Send the warning." Jake nodded. "It will mean breaking every protocol about my real assignment. I was supposed to stay hidden unless you were in immediate physical danger." "Jake," Charlotte said, "if you do not send that warning, every human in the galaxy will be in immediate physical danger." He looked at her for a long moment, then made his decision. Jake studied the alien forces blocking their path to the shuttle bay. The Zephyrian soldiers were positioned at regular intervals, while the Vorthon drones floated in a pattern that covered all approaches. It was a professional security setup, with no obvious weaknesses. "We cannot fight through that many guards," Charlotte said quietly. "We do not need to fight them," Jake replied. "We need to make them come to us." Jake pulled another device from his equipment belt. This one looked like a small metal cylinder about the size of his thumb. He twisted one end and a soft beeping sound started. "Distraction charge," he explained. "It will create a lot of noise and smoke but will not hurt anyone seriously." Jake threw the device down the corridor toward the shuttle bay. It rolled along the floor until it was halfway between their hiding spot and the alien guards. Then it exploded with a tremendous bang and filled the area with thick white smoke. The alien guards immediately moved toward the explosion to investigate. Jake and Charlotte used the confusion to run in the opposite direction, deeper into the station. Jake's plan was not to reach their shuttle but to find another way off the station entirely. "Where are we going now?" Charlotte asked as they ran through more corridors. "The station has emergency escape pods scattered throughout its structure," Jake explained. "If we can reach one of those, we can get away from here and rendezvous with Earthships later." Behind them, Charlotte could hear angry voices as the alien guards realized they had been tricked. General Vex's voice boomed through the communication system, ordering a complete lockdown of the station. No ships would be allowed to leave and all areas would be searched systematically. Jake led Charlotte through parts of the station she had never seen before. These were the working areas where maintenance crews and cargo handlers spent their time. The corridors were narrower and the lighting was not as good as in the diplomatic sections. They passed through a cargo bay filled with containers from different worlds. Some held food supplies while others contained replacement parts for the RAM station systems. Jake moved between the containers carefully, using them as cover while he checked for alien patrols. "This way," Jake whispered, pointing toward a service ladder that led to the upper levels of the station. They climbed quickly through several decks. Charlotte's dress made climbing difficult, but she managed to keep up with Jake's pace. Her hands were getting scratched from the rough metal ladder, but she ignored the pain. At the upper level, Jake led her through a section marked as environmental controls. Large machines hummed quietly as they processed air and water for the station's inhabitants. The noise would help hide the sounds of their movement. Emergency pod bay should be just ahead, Jake said as they worked their way between the machinery. They reached a heavy door marked with warning signs in multiple languages. Jake used a tool from his belt to override the electronic lock. The door opened to reveal a small chamber with 4 escape pods mounted in launch tubes. Perfect, Jake said. These pods are designed for emergencies. They have basic life support and communication equipment. As Jake began preparing one of the pods for launch, alarms started sounding in their area. The alien search teams had found their trail and were getting closer. "How long do you need?" Charlotte asked. 2 more minutes to get the pod ready," Jake replied while working quickly with the controls. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. Charlotte could see lights moving as search teams approached their location. The aliens had found them. "They are almost here," she warned. Jake finished his preparations and opened the pod's hatch. "Get inside quickly." Charlotte climbed into the small escape pod. It was cramped with just enough room for 2 people and basic equipment. Jake followed her inside and sealed the hatch just as alien voices reached the pod bay. Emergency launch. In 3 seconds, Jake announced as he activated the pod systems. The launch mechanism fired and their pod shot out of the station like a bullet from a gun. Charlotte felt pressed back into her seat by the acceleration. Through the small window, she could see New Geneva Station getting smaller behind them. "We made it," Charlotte said with relief. "Not yet," Jake replied as he checked the pod sensors. "Look." Charlotte looked at the display screen Jake was pointing to. It showed several alien ships moving away from the station toward their pod. The Zephyrians and Vorthans were not going to let them escape easily. "Can this pod outrun them?" Charlotte asked. "No chance," Jake said. "But it does not need to outrun them. It just needs to survive long enough for help to arrive." Jake activated the pod's distress beacon and began sending signals on all emergency frequencies. He also started the pod's defensive systems, which included basic shields and electronic countermeasures. The first alien ship to reach them was a Zephyrian patrol craft. It was much larger than their escape pod and heavily armed. The ship positioned itself in front of them and began transmitting demands for surrender. "Attention, human escape pod," came General Vex's voice over the communication system. "Return to the station immediately or we will be forced to disable your craft." Jake ignored the demands and continued sending distress signals. Charlotte watched the sensors as more alien ships approached their position. Soon they would be completely surrounded. "Jake, there are too many of them," she said. "Help is coming," Jake replied confidently. "Earth received my warning about 40 minutes ago. Admiral Carter would have dispatched rescue ships immediately." A Vorthan ship joined the Zephyrian craft in surrounding their pod. The crystal vessel was sleek and fast with weapons that glowed with contained energy. Both alien ships could destroy their little escape pod easily, but they seemed to want Charlotte alive. "Human pod, this is your final warning," Prime Node Zara's musical voice announced. "Surrender now or face the consequences." Jake continued to ignore them while making adjustments to their pod systems. Charlotte noticed he was doing something with the navigation controls that she did not understand. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Buying time," Jake said, "and sending more detailed intelligence back to Earth about what we learned." Suddenly, new contacts appeared on their sensors. 3 ships were approaching fast from the direction of human space. Charlotte felt hope return as she realized that Earth forces had indeed responded to Jake's distress signal. "This is Captain Ryan Hayes, of the Earth ship Liberty," came a familiar voice over the communication system. "Human pod, please identify yourself." "Captain Hayes, this is Captain Jake Morrison with Princess Charlotte," Jake replied. "We have critical intelligence about an imminent alien attack on human colonies." The Earth ships moved into position around the escape pod. They were smaller than the alien vessels, but they were armed and ready for battle. Captain Hayes had brought 2 destroyers and a fast cruiser to rescue the princess. "Alien vessels withdraw immediately," Captain Hayes announced. "You are threatening a member of the Earth royal family under diplomatic protection." General Vex responded angrily. The humans have committed espionage acts. We demand their return to face charges. That is not going to happen, Captain Hayes said firmly. For a tense moment, Charlotte thought a battle was about to begin. The alien ships had better weapons, but the Earth ships had surprise and determination on their side. 7 warships faced each other in the darkness of space with a tiny escape pod caught in the middle. Then Jake's distraction plan worked perfectly. While everyone was focused on the standoff, he had been quietly transmitting detailed intelligence about the alien alliance directly to the Earth ships. Captain Hayes received complete information about the planned attack on human colonies. All ships emergency jump to Earth space immediately, Captain Hayes ordered as soon as he finished reading Jake's intelligence. Code Red defense protocols are now in effect. The Earth ships activated their faster-than-light drives and disappeared into hyperspace, taking Charlotte and Jake's escape pod with them. The aliens were left behind, realizing too late that the humans had learned everything about their secret plans. The journey back to Earth space took 18 hours in hyperspace. Charlotte and Jake spent the time in the medical bay of Captain Hayes' ship, the Liberty. The ship's doctor treated their minor injuries while they gave detailed reports about everything they had discovered. Captain Hayes was a veteran officer with gray hair and steady hands. He had served in the Earth Navy for 25 years and had never seen intelligence as important as what Jake and Charlotte brought him. Admiral Carter is mobilizing every available ship, Captain Hayes told them as they sat in his ready room. Your warning gave us just enough time to prepare defenses before the alien attack begins. Charlotte felt relieved that Earth was taking action, but she worried it might not be enough. Captain, the aliens have been planning this for months. They will have positioned their fleets perfectly for maximum damage. That is true, Captain Hayes agreed. But they were counting on surprise. Now that we know they are coming, we can make them pay a heavy price for their aggression. Jake was studying tactical displays that showed the positions of human fleets throughout the galaxy. Earth had ships scattered across dozens of star systems, protecting colonies and trade routes. Bringing them together quickly enough to defend against a coordinated attack would be extremely difficult. The Meridian Sector colonies are the most vulnerable, Jake observed. They are farthest from Earth and have the smallest defensive forces. Admiral Carter is sending reinforcements there now, Captain Hayes said. But you are right that they will be hit first and hardest. The Liberty dropped out of hyperspace near Earth's orbital defense platforms. Charlotte could see her home world, through the ship's windows looking peaceful and blue against the blackness of space. It was hard to believe that this beautiful planet was about to be attacked by aliens who wanted to destroy human civilization. Earth's orbital space was filled with activity. Warships of every size were arriving from across human territory. Cargo, ships delivered supplies and ammunition, while construction crews worked frantically to strengthen the defense platforms. I have never seen so many Earth ships in one place, Charlotte said. Admiral Carter has called up the entire reserve fleet, Captain Hayes explained. Every ship that can fight is being brought here to defend Earth. They docked with the main command station where Admiral Lisa Carter was coordinating Earth's defenses. The Admiral was a tough woman in her 50s, who had earned her rank through skill and courage. She greeted Charlotte with proper respect, but her attention was clearly focused on the coming battle. Your Highness, your intelligence has given us a chance to survive this attack, Admiral Carter said. But I need to know everything you learned about alien capabilities and plans. Charlotte and Jake spent 3 hours briefing the Admiral and her staff. They described the alien alliance, the planned attack timeline, and the force deployments they had observed. Jake also provided technical details about alien ship capabilities that he had gathered during his intelligence mission. The attack will begin in approximately 6 hours, Admiral Carter announced when the briefing was finished. Alien fleets are already moving toward their targets throughout human space. As if to confirm her words, communication officers began receiving reports from the outer colonies. Long-range sensors were detecting large alien fleet movements in multiple sectors. The war was about to begin. Admiral, Charlotte said, there is something else you should know. When Jake and I were escaping from the station, I noticed that not all the aliens supported the attack. Admiral Carter looked interested. Explain. Some of the smaller species seemed uncomfortable with what the Zephyrians and Vorthans were planning. I think they might be willing to help us if they knew the truth about the alliance. Jake nodded in agreement. During my intelligence gathering, I observed several species that seemed to fear the major alien empires. They might see this war as an opportunity to break free from Zephyrian and Vorthan domination. Admiral Carter considered this information carefully. Do you think any of these species could be convinced to actively join our side? It is possible, Charlotte replied. But we would need to reach out to them quickly before the fighting spreads too far. The Admiral made a decision. Princess, I am authorizing you to make contact with neutral species. If you can convince some of them to support us, it could change the entire balance of power in this war. Charlotte felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders again. She was being asked to become not just a symbol of human resistance, but an actual diplomatic leader in the fight for galactic freedom. Over the next few hours, Charlotte worked with Earth's diplomatic corps to send messages to dozens of smaller, alien species. She explained the truth about the Zephyrian-Vorthon alliance and offered them a chance to join a coalition of free worlds fighting against imperial domination. The responses came slowly at first. Many species were afraid to take sides in a war between such powerful empires. But as word spread about humanity's discovery of the secret alliance, more aliens began to realize that their own independence was at stake. The first species to openly join humanity was the Kythera, an insectoid race that had been forced to pay tribute to the Zephyrian Empire for centuries. Their ambassador arrived at Earth just hours before the attack began. The Kythera Collective stands with humanity, announced Ambassador Z through her translation device. We have endured Zephyrian oppression for too long. This war gives us a chance to win our freedom. The Kythera brought with them detailed intelligence about Zephyrian military capabilities and weaknesses. They also offered the services of their fast scout ships, which could provide early warning about alien fleet movements. Next came the Deneb, a mammalian species known for their merchant fleets. They had been forced to give the Vorthans exclusive trading rights in several sectors. Their leader, Trademaster Kor, spoke passionately about the need for free commerce. The Vorthan Collective has strangled our trade for decades, Kor said. We will provide ships and supplies to anyone fighting against their tyranny. By the time the alien attack began, Charlotte had convinced 7 smaller species to join humanity's cause. It was not enough to match the combined fleets of the Zephyrians and Vorthans, but it gave Earth valuable allies and resources. The first reports of battle came from the Meridian sector. Zephyrian and Vorthan fleets had attacked simultaneously, just as Charlotte had overheard in their secret conversation, but human forces were ready for them. Meridian Defense Command reports successful defense of 3 colony worlds, announced a communication officer. Enemy forces suffered heavy casualties. Charlotte felt pride swell in her chest. Her warning had saved those colonies and the millions of people living on them. But she knew the war was just beginning. Admiral Carter called for her attention. Princess, we are receiving a transmission from the Kythera scout fleet. They have detected a massive alien force moving toward Earth itself. Charlotte looked at the tactical display showing red icons representing enemy ships. There were hundreds of them, approaching from multiple directions. The aliens were bringing everything they had for a final assault on humanity's homeworld. How long do we have? Charlotte asked. Approximately 4 hours until they reach our outer defense perimeter, Admiral Carter replied. Charlotte realized this would be the decisive battle of the war. If Earth fell, human civilization would be destroyed. But if they could defeat this attack, the alien alliance might begin to crumble. She looked around the command center at the faces of human officers and alien allies working together to coordinate their defenses. A few days ago, most of these species had never spoken to each other. Now they were united in fighting for their freedom. Admiral, Charlotte said, what can I do to help? Admiral Carter smiled grimly. Keep doing what you have been doing, Your Highness. Give people hope and remind them what we are fighting for. The battle for Earth began at dawn. Charlotte stood in the command center watching tactical displays that showed hundreds of ships moving through space around her home world. Red icons represented the combined Zephyrian and Vorthan fleets while Blue icons showed Earth's defenders and their new alien allies. Admiral Carter commanded the defense from the orbital command station. Her voice was calm and steady as she coordinated the movements of dozens of ship squadrons. Charlotte admired how the admiral could stay focused under such enormous pressure. "Enemy vanguard approaching outer perimeter," reported a sensor officer. "Zephyrian heavy cruisers leading the attack. All defensive platforms open fire," Admiral Carter ordered. "Fighter squadrons, begin your attack runs." The space around Earth erupted in flashes of light as energy weapons and missiles crossed the darkness between opposing fleets. Charlotte could see the battle through the command center's main window, but the distances were so vast that individual ships looked like tiny sparks of light. Jake stood beside Charlotte, monitoring communications between Earth forces and their alien allies. The Kythera scout ships were providing excellent intelligence about enemy movements, while the Deneb merchant vessels had been converted into support ships carrying supplies and ammunition. "The aliens are hitting us hard," Jake observed as he watched the tactical displays. "But our defenses are holding better than expected." Charlotte nodded as she saw several red icons disappear from the display. Human and allied forces were destroying alien ships, but they were taking losses too. Blue icons were also vanishing as the battle continued. "Princess," called Admiral Carter, "we are receiving a priority transmission from the Meridian sector. The aliens have withdrawn from several colony worlds after taking heavy casualties." Charlotte felt a surge of hope. If the aliens were pulling back from their attacks on human colonies, it meant their invasion plan was not working as expected. But her hope was tempered by what she saw happening around Earth. The alien fleets were pressing their attack despite their losses. General Vex and Prime Node Zara were determined to capture humanity's homeworld, even if it cost them most of their ships. "Admiral," reported a communication officer, "we are receiving transmissions from neutral species throughout the galaxy. Word about the alien alliance is spreading." Admiral Carter looked interested. "What kind of reactions are we getting?" "Many species are expressing outrage at the deception," the officer replied. "Several are demanding explanations from Zephyrian and Vorthon representatives." Charlotte realized that exposing the secret alliance was having effects beyond just the military battle. The aliens had spent years building their reputations as separate empires with different interests. Now that other species knew they had been lying, their political credibility was being destroyed. "Jake," Charlotte said, "we should broadcast the recordings I made of their secret conversation. If the whole galaxy hears General Vex and Prime Node Zara planning to divide human territory, it will prove everything we have been saying." Jake nodded and quickly set up a galaxy-wide communication array. Charlotte's recordings of the alien conspiracy were transmitted on all frequencies in dozens of languages. Within hours, every species in the galaxy would know the truth about the Zephyrian-Vorthon alliance. The effect was immediate and dramatic. On the tactical displays, Charlotte could see some alien ships breaking off their attacks and returning to their home territories. Not all species were willing to continue supporting empires that had been deceiving them for years. "Enemy fleet coordination is breaking down," reported a tactical officer. "Several allied species are withdrawing from the battle." Admiral Carter smiled grimly. "Keep up the pressure. If we can break their alliance completely, this war will be over." But General Vex and Prime Node Zara were not giving up easily. Their core fleets continued attacking Earth's defenses with desperate fury. They knew that if they could not win quickly, their entire plan would collapse. "Massive energy readings from the alien flagship," warned a sensor officer. "They are preparing some kind of superweapon." Charlotte watched in horror as the largest Vorthon ship began glowing with contained energy. The vessel was 3 times the size of any human ship, and its crystal hull was channeling power levels that seemed impossible. "All ships, emergency evasive maneuvers," Admiral Carter ordered. "That ship is about to fire something we have never seen before." The Vorthon flagship released a beam of pure energy that cut through space like a sword of light. It struck one of Earth's orbital defense platforms and completely destroyed it in a single shot. The platform simply vanished in a flash of brilliant fire. "They can destroy our fixed defenses easily with that weapon," Admiral Carter said. "We need to take out that ship before it can fire again." Jake was already working on a solution. "Admiral, If we coordinate attacks from multiple directions, we might be able to overwhelm their shields before they can recharge that weapon. Do it, Admiral Carter ordered. Human and allied ships from across the battle area converged on the Vorthan flagship. Fighters, destroyers, and cruisers attacked from every angle, while the massive enemy ship tried to defend itself with conventional weapons. Charlotte watched as dozens of ships sacrificed themselves to damage the alien superweapon. Human crews gave their lives to protect Earth, and their alien allies fought just as bravely for the cause of freedom. The coordinated attack succeeded. The Vorthan flagship's shields collapsed and its superweapon was destroyed by focused fire from Earth's remaining defense platforms. Prime Node Zara's voice came over the communication channels, ordering a general retreat of all Vorthan forces. "The crystal ships are withdrawing," reported a tactical officer. "The Vorthons are leaving the battle." But General Vex was not ready to admit defeat. His Zephyrian fleet continued attacking even without their Vorthon allies. The reptilian general seemed determined to destroy Earth even if it meant losing his entire force. "General Vex, this is Admiral Carter," the Admiral broadcast on all frequencies. "Your alliance has collapsed and your invasion has failed. Withdraw now, and we will allow your ships to leave safely." General Vex's reply was filled with rage. "Humans will not dictate terms to the Zephyrian Empire. We will fight until your world burns." The battle continued for another 2 hours as Zephyrian ships pressed their desperate assault. But without Vorthon support, and with many allied species withdrawing, they were heavily outnumbered. One by one, General Vex's ships were destroyed or forced to retreat. Finally, only the General's flagship remained. The massive Zephyrian battleship was surrounded by Earth forces and had nowhere to run. General Vex faced a choice between surrender and death. "General, your war is over," Admiral Carter announced. "Surrender your ship and we will treat you with honor." For a long moment there was silence. Then General Vex's voice came over the communication system, sounding tired and defeated. "Admiral Carter, the Zephyrian flagship surrenders." Charlotte felt relief wash over her as she realized the battle was finally over. Earth had survived the alien invasion, and the secret alliance was destroyed. But she knew this was just the beginning of a new era in galactic politics. "Admiral," she said, "we need to make sure this kind of deception never happens again." Admiral Carter nodded. "What do you suggest, Your Highness?" Charlotte looked out at the stars where ships from dozens of species were now working together to clean up after the battle. Human crews were rescuing alien survivors while alien ships helped repair Earth's damaged defenses. "We create a new alliance," Charlotte said. "One based on truth and mutual respect instead of lies and domination. We show the galaxy that cooperation is stronger than conquest." Jake smiled at her. "That sounds like something worth fighting for." 6 months after the battle for Earth, Charlotte stood on the bridge of the flagship New Liberty watching the most remarkable sight she had ever seen. Ships from 47 different species floated in formation around the new space station that had been built to replace New Geneva. The station was called Unity Station, and it represented everything that Charlotte had hoped for when she first proposed a new galactic alliance. Instead of being controlled by a few powerful empires, Unity Station was governed by representatives from all member species working together as equals. Jake stood beside her wearing the uniform of the new Galactic Defense Force. His rank insignia showed that he was now a colonel, promoted for his actions during the crisis that had changed the galaxy forever. He served as Charlotte's military advisor and head of security, but their relationship had evolved beyond just professional duties. "The Andorian delegation has just arrived," Jake reported, pointing to a group of sleek ships approaching the station. "That brings our total membership to 47 species." Charlotte nodded with satisfaction. The Andorians were a peaceful aquatic species that had been neutral during the war. Their decision to join the alliance was a sign that even non-military species saw value in the new galactic order. "Any word from the Zephyrian colonies?" Charlotte asked. 3 more systems have declared independence from the Empire and requested alliance membership," Jake replied. General Vex's defeat seems to have encouraged a lot of Zephyrian worlds to break free from Imperial control. Charlotte felt pleased by this news. After the war, the Zephyrian Empire had collapsed into civil war as different factions fought for control. Many colony worlds had used the chaos to declare independence and seek protection from the new alliance. The Vorthon Collective had suffered a similar fate. Prime Node Zara had been replaced by a new leadership council that was more interested in trade and technology sharing than in conquest. Several Vorthon worlds had already applied for alliance membership. Princess called Admiral Carter from the station's communication center. Admiral Carter now served as the first Supreme Commander of the Galactic Defense Force, coordinating military cooperation between all alliance members. Charlotte and Jake walked over to where the Admiral was, reviewing intelligence reports from across the galaxy. The reports showed the current status of former enemy territories and the progress of new alliance members in integrating their forces. The intelligence summary looks good, Admiral Carter said. Alliance membership continues to grow, and we have had no major conflicts in the past 3 months. Charlotte studied the reports with interest. Building a galactic alliance was proving to be even more challenging than fighting the war. Different species had different needs, cultures, and political systems. Making them all work together required constant diplomatic effort, but the results were encouraging. Trade between alliance members had increased dramatically as old imperial restrictions were removed. Scientific cooperation was advancing faster than anyone had expected as species shared their knowledge freely. Most importantly, smaller species no longer lived in fear of being conquered by powerful empires. What about the rogue Zephyrian fleets? Jake asked. Still causing problems in the outer sectors, Admiral Carter replied, but the Kithara scout forces are tracking them effectively. We should be able to round up the last of the Imperial holdouts within a few months. Charlotte was glad to hear this news. Some Zephyrian commanders had refused to accept their empire's defeat and had continued raiding Alliance territory with small fleets. Stopping these attacks was important for maintaining peace and security. A communication officer approached their group. Your Highness, we are receiving a priority transmission from Earth. Your father wishes to speak with you. Charlotte smiled. King William had been extremely proud of her actions during the crisis. He had officially appointed her as Earth's primary representative to the Alliance, making her one of the most important diplomats in the galaxy at only 26 years old. Put him through, Charlotte said. King William's image appeared on the communication screen. He looked older than when Charlotte had last seen him, but his eyes were bright with pride and satisfaction. Charlotte, my dear daughter, the king said, warmly. I wanted to congratulate you on the success of the Alliance Summit. The reports I am receiving from Unity Station are very encouraging. Thank you, Father, Charlotte replied. Building this alliance has been the most rewarding work of my life. I have some news that I think will interest you, King William continued. The Earth Parliament has voted to formally recognize the Galactic Alliance as a legitimate governing body. They are also approving increased funding for Alliance defense forces. This was excellent news. Earth's support was crucial for the Alliance's long-term success because humans provided much of the military leadership and technological resources that kept the organization functioning. There is one more thing, King William added with a knowing smile. I understand that Colonel Morrison has been doing excellent work as your advisor. Charlotte felt her cheeks warm slightly. Her father had always been perceptive about personal relationships. Over the past 6 months, her professional partnership with Jake had gradually become something deeper and more personal. Jake has been invaluable to the Alliance's success, Charlotte said diplomatically. I am sure he has, King William replied with amusement. Give him my regards. After the communication ended, Charlotte and Jake returned to watching the ships around Unity Station. The sight never got old for either of them. Every vessel represented a species that had chosen cooperation over conquest, freedom over domination. Do you ever regret breaking protocol that night on New Geneva Station? Charlotte asked Jake. Jake considered the question seriously. Breaking protocol saved your life and possibly prevented the destruction of human civilization. I would make the same choice again without hesitation. Charlotte took his hand in hers. Your decision to trust me changed everything. Your courage in discovering the alien plot And your determination to warn Earth changed everything, Jake corrected. I just followed your lead. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching as a new ship approached the station. It was a vessel from the Helix Confederation, a species that had just voted to join the Alliance. Soon there would be 48 member species working together for galactic peace. What do you think the future holds? Charlotte asked. Jake smiled and squeezed her hand. I think the galaxy is finally free to discover what civilization can accomplish when species work together instead of fighting each other. Charlotte nodded in agreement. The war had been terrible, but it had also created opportunities that would never have existed under the old imperial system. Species that had been enemies for centuries were now trading partners and allies. Technologies that had been military secrets were being shared for peaceful purposes. Most importantly, the idea that might makes right had been replaced by the principle that all sentient beings deserve freedom and respect. It was a revolutionary change that would shape the galaxy for generations to come. As Charlotte and Jake watched the bustling activity around Unity Station, they knew they had played a part in creating something truly historic. Charlotte's secret signal to Jake during a formal dinner had started a chain of events that brought down ancient empires and created a new galactic order based on cooperation and mutual respect. The rigid protocols that once governed diplomatic relations had been replaced by genuine partnerships built on trust and shared values. Sometimes, Charlotte reflected, the most important thing a person could do was break the rules that prevented them from doing what was right. And sometimes, Jake thought as he looked at the woman who had become both his partner and the love of his life, the greatest rewards came from having the courage to act when action was needed most. Together, they had helped create a galaxy where freedom was more powerful than fear, where cooperation was stronger than conquest, and where the future belonged to those brave enough to fight for it. 6 months after the battle for Earth, Charlotte stood on the bridge of the flagship New Liberty, watching the most remarkable sight she had ever seen. Ships from 47 different species floated in formation around the new space station that had been built to replace New Geneva. The station was called Unity Station, and it represented everything that Charlotte had hoped for when she first proposed a new galactic alliance. Instead of being controlled by a few powerful empires, Unity Station was governed by representatives from all member species working together as equals. Jake stood beside her wearing the uniform of the new Galactic Defense Force. His rank insignia showed that he was now a colonel, promoted for his actions during the crisis that had changed the galaxy forever. He served as Charlotte's military advisor and head of security, but their relationship had evolved beyond just professional duties. The Andorian delegation has just arrived, Jake reported, pointing to a group of sleek ships approaching the station. That brings our total membership to 47 species. Charlotte nodded with satisfaction. The Andorians were a peaceful aquatic species that had been neutral during the war. Their decision to join the alliance was a sign that even non-military species saw value in the new galactic order. Any word from the Zephyrian colonies? Charlotte asked. 3 more systems have declared independence from the Empire and requested alliance membership, Jake replied. General Vex's defeat seems to have encouraged a lot of Zephyrian worlds to break free from Imperial control. Charlotte felt pleased by this news. After the war, the Zephyrian Empire had collapsed into civil war as different factions fought for control. Many colony worlds had used the chaos to declare independence and seek protection from the new alliance. The Vorthon Collective had suffered a similar fate. Prime Node Zara had been replaced by a new leadership council that was more interested in trade and technology sharing than in conquest. Several Vorthon worlds had already applied for alliance membership. Princess called Admiral Carter from the station's communication center. Admiral Carter now served as the first Supreme Commander of the Galactic Defense Force, coordinating military cooperation between all alliance members. Charlotte and Jake walked over to where the Admiral was, reviewing intelligence reports from across the galaxy. The report showed the current status of former enemy territories and the progress of new alliance members in integrating their forces. The intelligence summary looks good, Admiral Carter said. Alliance membership continues to grow, and we have had no major conflicts in the past 3 months. Charlotte studied the reports with interest. Building a galactic alliance was proving to be even more challenging than fighting the war. Different species had different needs, cultures, and political systems. Making them all work together required constant diplomatic effort. But the results were encouraging. Trade between alliance members had increased dramatically as old imperial restrictions were removed. Scientific cooperation was advancing faster than anyone had expected as species shared their knowledge freely. Most importantly, smaller species no longer lived in fear of being conquered by powerful empires. "What about the rogue Zephyrian fleets?" Jake asked. "Still causing problems in the outer sectors," Admiral Carter replied. "But the Kithera scout forces are tracking them effectively. We should be able to round up the last of the Imperial holdouts within a few months." Charlotte was glad to hear this news. Some Zephyrian commanders had refused to accept their empire's defeat and had continued raiding Alliance territory with small fleets. Stopping these attacks was important for maintaining peace and security. A communication officer approached their group. "Your Highness, we are receiving a priority transmission from Earth. Your father wishes to speak with you." Charlotte smiled. King William had been extremely proud of her actions during the crisis. He had officially appointed her as Earth's primary representative to the Alliance, making her one of the most important diplomats in the galaxy at only 26 years old. "Put him through," Charlotte said. King William's image appeared on the communication screen. He looked older than when Charlotte had last seen him, but his eyes were bright with pride and satisfaction. "Charlotte, my dear daughter," the king said, warmly. "I wanted to congratulate you on the success of the Alliance Summit. The reports I am receiving from Unity Station are very encouraging." "Thank you, Father," Charlotte replied. "Building this alliance has been the most rewarding work of my life. I have some news that I think will interest you," King William continued. "The Earth Parliament has voted to formally recognize the Galactic Alliance as a legitimate governing body. They are also approving increased funding for Alliance defense forces. This was excellent news. Earth support was crucial for the Alliance's long-term success because humans provided much of the military leadership and technological resources that kept the organization functioning. There is one more thing," King William added with a knowing smile. "I understand that Colonel Morrison has been doing excellent work as your advisor." Charlotte felt her cheeks warm slightly. Her father had always been perceptive about personal relationships. Over the past 6 months, her professional partnership with Jake had gradually become something deeper and more personal. "Jake has been invaluable to the Alliance's success," Charlotte said diplomatically. "I am sure he has," King William replied with amusement. "Give him my regards." After the communication ended, Charlotte and Jake returned to watching the ships around Unity Station. The sight never got old for either of them. Every vessel represented a species that had chosen cooperation over conquest, freedom over domination. "Do you ever regret breaking protocol that night on New Geneva Station?" Charlotte asked Jake. Jake considered the question seriously. "Breaking protocol saved your life and possibly prevented the destruction of human civilization. I would make the same choice again without hesitation." Charlotte took his hand in hers. "Your decision to trust me changed everything. Your courage in discovering the alien plot and your determination to warn Earth changed everything," Jake corrected. "I just followed your lead." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching as a new ship approached the station. It was a vessel from the Helix Confederation, a species that had just voted to join the Alliance. Soon, there would be 48 member species working together for galactic peace. "What do you think the future holds?" Charlotte asked. Jake smiled and squeezed her hand. "I think the galaxy is finally free to discover what civilization can accomplish when species work together instead of fighting each other." Charlotte nodded in agreement. The war had been terrible, but it had also created opportunities that would never have existed under the old imperial system. Species that had been enemies for centuries were now trading partners and allies. Technologies that had been military secrets were being shared for peaceful purposes. Most importantly, the idea that might makes right had been replaced by the principle that all sentient beings deserved freedom and respect. It was a revolutionary change that would shape the galaxy for generations to come. As Charlotte and Jake watched the bustling activity around Unity Station, they knew they had played a part in creating something truly historic. Charlotte's secret signal to Jake during a formal dinner had started a chain of events that brought down ancient empires and created a new galactic order based on cooperation and mutual respect. The rigid protocols that once governed diplomatic relations had been replaced by genuine partnerships built on trust and shared values. Sometimes, Charlotte reflected, the most important thing a person could do was break the rules that prevented them from doing what was right. And sometimes, Jake thought, as he looked at the woman who had become both his partner and the love of his life, the greatest rewards came from having the courage to act when action was needed most. Together, they had helped create a galaxy where freedom was more powerful than fear, where cooperation was stronger than conquest, and where the future belonged to those brave enough to fight for it.